All right, this is World War One. We are going to skip these first two, take a quick look at them, but we're going to skip these first two and do them in class when I come back. Somebody remind me that we need to do these when we come back. Before we start talking about World War One, just a couple of quick reminders here about the expansion of the national government. Excuse me. Remember, Roosevelt said, "Speak softly but carry a big stick." He was involved in the Panama Canal, the Columbia Revolt. He was in charge of making sure that we got the Panama Canal, giving Panama $10 million, separating Panama, helping them get their independence, all that good stuff. He was also in charge of the Roosevelt Corollary, where he didn't allow any European countries in by paying off of their debts, so that none of those Latin American countries had debt into Europe, so that no Europeans would come over here. And he also won the Nobel Peace Prize for the Russia-Japanese War, in which both Russia and Japan now hate the United States because they don't believe that he did them well. We talked about Taft dollar diplomacy at the end of the last set of notes. The other thing to note here is China's railroads. He was sending money in and trying to own China's railroads, which of course Russia and Japan both wanted them to stop that, especially Japan. They're all angry at them, and this ended up closing that open door policy into Asia, which is, of course, the only thing the United States wanted, and now because of our arrogance, it's closed. Wilson was a little bit different. We almost go to war with Mexico. We don't. But Wilson believes that the United States could lead the world in capitalist development and democracy simply by being moral. If we are moral and we spread democracy, everyone will follow us. That was his kind of plan here, was we're moral. People will follow us because we're a moral group. That's a great idea, and I really hope my friends are moral, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a great idea for politicians, especially when trying to get things from other countries. Facts to know about World War I. Originally, this is called the Great War. The United States enters very reluctantly. We're going to find out that they're actually only in the war for about 8 months. I know you all are tired of me saying this, but I actually took a class about World War I and World War II combined, and learned that most countries teach this as one long war. Americans are exception. Of course, we believe we're exceptional. It didn't affect us the same way. We're different than all of the European countries and all the other countries in the Eastern Hemisphere that were involved in this, because we are the only country that comes out economically stronger of both wars. We are the only country that has no civilian deaths. We see these wars as great wars for us. It stinks that our men are dead, but we come out economically stronger. And so this is a wonderful thing for the United States. The United States played a supportive role, not a central role, in World War I. We get there late. We don't have a major role in this war. This impacts the map of Europe. It impacts the war, impacts political relations, and it impacts the United States economy, culture, and politics. My professor is Nieberg, and that's who's here in parentheses. He was quoted as saying, "Every problem we have in the world today is traced back to World War I, to what happened between 1914 and 1918." So he is quoted as saying that, and then throughout the class he would prove it by some different things. For example, there were 4 empires before World War I began. There was the Russian Empire, there was the Ottoman Empire, there was the German Empire, and there was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. These 4 empires are replaced by 3 ideas. So instead of having, an empire telling you what to do and where to go and all that sort of thing, now instead of all these empires, because the empires are broken up, you now have 3 ideas that replace it. And the 3 ideas that replaced it were democracy, fascism, and Bolsheviks. And so those 3 ideas replace what used to be empires. And so physical things are replaced with ideas. And so that's something that is very different about this. I'm going to attempt to show you some of these world maps here. Go. Let's move this. So you have this link, and if you want some more information about these maps, you can click on them. Oh, that didn't help me. Let's move that over here. There we go. So you can see that this is the alliances that are happening. The brownish are one big alliance. The pink is another. These green countries are trying to stay neutral. This is the German, and I'm not going to say that correctly, but this is the great big all of Germany here. So they're huge. They're much bigger than Germany, and you can see there's the Austrian Empire and there's the Russian Empire, and the Balkan War, and this map is going to move, has separated these countries, our empires. This goes to Serbia, that goes to Greece. They're starting to kind of pull off a little bit of Turkey there. You can also see that the European powers have parts of Africa. So here is France and Italy and Germany and Spain, but across the Mediterranean Sea, here's Africa. Here's Egypt. We're also very close here to the Middle East. Russia's right here. The Ottoman Empire's right here. So this is all happening in Asia, Asia and Europe. And here's West Africa, Morocco. Here's some of these countries that have already settled. But then we've got British East Africa, German East Africa, French Congo. So you can see that they have, they have colonies in this continent down here. This is the German path, how they start taking over. This is a linguistic map of Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary breaks up into different countries, and you can see here the different languages that are spoken and the different types of people that are in different areas. And one of the problems that's going to come because of this is we split up these countries, and we don't really take, and I say we lightly, I mean it's all of the nations on the winning side. We don't take lightly like who lives there. For example, the purple are the Poles. Well, Poland, this does not become Poland. This becomes part of Russia because Russia wants the resources in this area. And so over here is more Polish, but over here they don't speak, they're not Poles. So that's part of the problem of everything that's happening. We'll come back to this map. This is why war breaks out. And this is how everybody starts mobilizing for war. We're going to start getting ready to go to war. So we'll come back to this map here in just a minute. Where did I bring this way down here? I don't know. The two sides of the war, there's the Triple Alliance. This is Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. Germany wants to be a superpower. That's kind of why they go to wars, because they're trying to be a superpower. The Triple Entente, or the Allies, are Great Britain, France, and Russia. Great Britain at this point is still a world power. Great Britain loses the most in this war. They are no longer a world power after World War II is over. World War II will end in 1945, and Great Britain is on food rations until 1950. So 5 years after the war is over, they are still on food rations. Notice that you can see who is missing from this, and that would be the United States, because they were not involved in 1914. We have a lot of immigrants from all of these countries. We have immigrants coming in from all of these countries, and so we're trying desperately to stay neutral. Plus, we're protected by oceans. You've got to understand that we don't really have planes yet. We do, but the planes are not going to Europe in the air. They're going on a boat. They can't go over the ocean yet. So we're protected. We're protected with the big oceans on either side of us. These alliances are keeping war at bay because, hey, don't do that because we're going to align with them, and we're not going to attack them because they're also aligned with so-and-so. But they're also the weakness, because once one group gets involved, the other ones have to. And so that's kind of how that plays out. In the beginning, here's how it happened, and I'll show you that map again. Archduke Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary is assassinated in Sarajevo by a Serbian nationalist. And so again, the alliances are what start this war. Germany pushes Austria-Hungary to retaliate. Here, you go fix this. You You need to go to war over this. Go into Serbia. And so Serbia asks Russia for help because they're allies. And so now you've got a huge power country and Russia getting involved with a huge power country of Austria-Hungary. Well, then Germany gets involved because they're on Austria-Hungary's side. And so it's like, you hit my friend, now I'm involved. And they just keep adding people. And so that gets worse and worse. And that's how the alliances start the war. Both sides of the war think this is going to be a very fast war, that they are easily going to win because they have efficient weapons like machine guns. You can see over here a picture of a machine gun in World War I. Look at how many people it takes to kind of shoot it off, though. It's not the type of machine gun that we really think of. Also, trench warfare. They're going to dig trenches and stay in there, and so nobody's really moving a whole lot, which is also making the war last longer. And then 5 million people are killed in 2.5 years. And again, that's a lot. Yep, that's a lot. So let me go back to this map. So you can see this map. This is the mustache car is Archduke Ferdinand. In fact, Archduke Ferdinand is missed by all of these nationalists here, and he keeps going, and they kind of made a wrong turn and came back here, and this guy, I believe the story goes, was actually walking out of a bar he had missed, and it was over and they failed, and he walks out of a bar and there's Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and so he shoots him and kills him. And so this is what starts World War I, because it happens. Austria-Hungary says you need to retaliate. So Austria-Hungary retaliates. They go into Serbia, and then Russia gets in. Serbia asks Russia. Russia gets involved, and so that's how it starts. Is because of all the alliances. Wilson is urging Americans to be neutral. This is impossible. It's very difficult to be neutral when your very nature you are pro-France and pro-Great Britain, because both politically and economically you align with them. There's a ton of propaganda. Irish Americans, German Americans, Great Britain, Franco-American friendship, like all of these things are happening. If you look closely at this little cartoon thing here, this is some of the propaganda. We learn later after the war's over that Britain infiltrated America with propaganda and how terrible the Germans were because they desperately wanted us to jump in on board with them. And if you look closely, you can see this is a good month's business. You can tell by their hats that they are Germans. They're dressed like the devil. There have been 164 babies killed, 178 children murdered, 297 women murdered, and this is again all in a good month. And so this is trying to tug at Americans' heartstrings, like, look at what these terrible Germans are doing. We need to do something about it. But we also had United States citizens in Germany. We had many German immigrants here. And, you know, Wilson is this moral guy, and now we have this moral dilemma because we are in an economic boom. Because of the war. We are getting rich off of this war, and Wilson has an issue with that. So we're trying to be neutral. Germany tries to test that. Germany declares the waters around the British Isles a war zone. And on May 7th of 1915, the Lusitania is sunk. The Lusitania is not an American ship. It is a British ship, but it happens to have American citizens on board. And so we get angry. The United States is angry. The United States protests this. They did not protest when Britain surrounded Germany and said that was a war zone. Wilson threatened to break relations with Germany. We were trading with Germany. And he says, we'll stop. We'll stop trading with you. We'll stop helping you. Not that we were helping them a whole lot, but we were helping them. And Germany agrees to start visiting the ships first. Wilson doubles the army and doubles his spending on protection. Some Americans are upset with this, but Wilson wins re-election with the slogan, "He kept us out of war," but he very barely wins re-election.